Hello, everyone. Gonna wait like one more minute and then we're gonna get started. All right, so I'm gonna get started. As people come in, I will continue to enter. My name is Robin Saray. I'm the Executive Director of Kaleidoscope School. I am very excited to talk to you today about the upcoming fifth grade program. As you know, we do not have a fifth grade program right now, and so there is no teachers. The other classrooms had teachers that were presenting. And so you get me tonight, and so I'm very excited. We have two teachers already hired for fifth grade for next year, so we're ready. But I didn't think it was nice of me to just throw them in for a program presentation. Just like to quickly talk about our mission and our core values. And so Kaleidoscope School provides academic rigor balanced with innovative hands-on instruction for every child. We cultivate strong relationships with students, families, and communities while facilitating our children's limitless potential. So the second sentence has been a little bit hard this year, but we've tried very hard, even with COVID, to build those strong relationships with students, families, and the community. And that kind of ties into our core values. And I'm just going to talk about them real quick, but then the next screens or slides will be able to go into further detail. So we have a unique learning environment, and the unique learning environment is where we put 30 kids in each classroom with two teachers for a total of 60 kids in each classroom and 4 teachers. And we take those 60 kids and we test them with their math and test them with their language arts, and we put them in with like-minded learner. And so you're going to see 30 kids, but they're actually 15-to-1 ratio because it is 2 teachers. It's not just a teacher and a paraprofessional. We put 2 teachers in there. So that makes it very unique here. Our next core value is character development. Character development is once a month we choose a core virtue that we talk about, and we build on it, and we read books about role play, and we reinforce it throughout the whole school day and throughout the whole entire school. On top of the character development, that's also where we do the social emotional. And we'll talk about the social emotional. The pandemic had made it very aware, the school did, is that we really needed a social emotional. The kids, we knew that if we didn't have them social emotionally, then we didn't have them academically. So we really focused on that, and that we will continue to focus on that for next year. We have an inclusive learning environment where the students get to be in an inclusive classroom with their other peers, learning at a high academic level, which ties into number 5. And the last one, or the fourth one, excuse me, is meaningful family and community involvement. That's been a little bit of a challenge this year. We've tried really hard to keep parents engaged, but with not being able to have families on campus and not allowing to go on field trips or get guest speakers, it's been a little bit hard. Our goal is next year is that the families will all be allowed on campus, and that community involvement. If people will have us, we're going to have field trips next year. The same with guest speakers, they're coming on campus. And finally, our academic excellence. We've chosen curriculums that sets the bar high, yet attainable. And so we truly believe in the academic excellence. So just a quick introduction about the daily schedule. And so we always dedicate 30 minutes to social emotional learning, and that's typically in the morning. And then after that, we go into our language arts program, which is usually about 90 minutes. It can give or take going into 5th grade. It might go down to not 45, excuse me. It might go into 75 minutes, but between 75 and 90 minutes. And we do try to break it up because 90 minutes sitting in one sit is a little bit hard. So we try to make sure that there's just not just one big 90-minute sitting. There's about 60 minutes dedicated to math. And then we have about a 15-minute snack or break recess in the morning. It looks like we go from snack to break to lunch, but it should say like between math and language arts, we have a little bit of a snack. And then we have a 30-minute lunch with a 30-minute recess. So every day the kids get an hour between the morning and the afternoon. And then in the afternoon, we focus on our specials where we have art, music, PE, computers, and Spanish. And these specials are taught by teachers that are not the general ed teachers. They are teachers that are brought in specifically for their content. These subjects, these specials, are correlated to what is being taught with their language arts, their math, and their core knowledge, science and social studies. And so in 5th grade, when they are learning about a certain subject area, they might be looking at the art that was done during that historical event, the music that was done during that historical event. They might be researching it on the computers, and then of course learning some Spanish words that correlate with what they're learning. And of course PE, we can learn PE with all of our subject matters. We dedicate 60 minutes a day to core knowledge, which is science, social studies, our core virtues, our poems, and our sayings. And so we tend to typically go a unit on science, a unit on social studies, so that we can expand upon it. And then usually we do poems about once a month and our sayings about once a month. And then finally, we have 60 minutes dedicated to Exploratorium. Exploratorium is basically time dedicated in the classroom for how the teachers feel that their classroom needs it. And so it could be that they're doing a science experiment, and so they need the extra time. And so they will take their 60-minute science and turn it into 120 minutes. Or they're putting on a play for social studies, and so they need to make the scenery and the backdrops and practice their lines, or they're writing their whole play. And so they'll do that. It also can be a time during language arts and math if they need some interventions. And so there might be 2 or 3 kids, or maybe the whole class just did not get a concept that was taught. It can be retaught, or it can be expanded upon during Exploratorium time. So the teachers have a lot of flexibility with that. And things that I've seen this year, and 4th graders this year, they got to dissect a heart. And so there was expanded time during that science unit for heart dissection, because you don't want to stop that at the end. You want to go through the whole process of it. And so social studies, I've also seen in one of the 4th grade classrooms, is that they rebuilt the whole model for a historical event. They had a market, and they were bartering, and they were doing all kinds of stuff. And so we want to make sure that this content is very deep. And so we have that extra time dedicated to it. Our drop-off and pickup procedures is we're open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and we start dropping off the kids at 7:45 to 8 is when the kids can go into the classroom. You can drive through, or you can walk up. And so this year, of course, we've not allowed the parents to walk into the school. This next year coming up, parents will be able to walk their kids up. I will tell you, 5th grade will be on the 2nd floor, and so they will be able to walk them up. If you can have 5th graders walk you up, I would definitely take advantage of it, because there just comes a time when they don't want to have that happen. And so same for pickup at 3 o'clock. Students usually go through a DriveLine app, and then you guys, the parents will give us their numbers, and usually they get dismissed through their classrooms. Once again, next year we will allow parents to come in and actually go to the classroom when the doors open, then the kids can be dismissed. It's pretty easy. Our curriculum. So this is the curriculum that we use. The first is Stanford Harmony. And so that is our social emotional, where students learn to recognize and appreciate one another's similarities and differences while promoting a community environment in and outside of the classroom. This is a program that we spend 30 minutes every day using. But then what we've also told the teachers this year, and we will continue to reinforce this, is that if the class as a whole is just having a hard time socially, emotionally, something could have happened that has impacted the whole class, then take it back down to social emotional, because if we don't have them social emotionally, we don't have them academically. And so that's why we start the day off every day with some social emotional items. And then of course we have our Singapore math. Our Singapore math is used through dimensions. And it focuses on fewer topics, but it goes into greater depths. They don't just learn equations to reach an answer, they learn how the equation works. And this is continued on into 5th grade. So it goes from kindergarten on up, and it's a continuation of the math every single year. Language arts is going to change. Those who are in 4th grade this year, we had the students this year do Spalding. And so our philosophy is that Spalding is done K-3, and then we transition, because what we have found with Spalding is it's an extremely good program. But by the time they hit 3rd grade, if they have gone through the whole program from kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, then it becomes a little repetitive, and then the students typically have the terminology, they've got what is needed for Singapore math, or excuse me, for Spalding. So what we do is we change our focus. And so we actually have 4 different items that we focus on. So for our spelling, we use Wordly Wise. And what we really like about Wordly Wise is it gives you a set of words, about 15 to 20 every week. And it goes into the depths. They have to know the part of speech it is. It has to know what it is used for. It can go into Latin and Greek roots. And then there's always something fun that happens at the end of every unit to reinforce the spelling. And then for grammar, we're using Easy Grammar. And when you see the book come home, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's a real thick grammar book. But to me, it's like a modern day version of diagramming. And so you first take out the prepositional phrases. And then once you learn the prepositional phrases, then you're circling the nouns, and then you're underlining the verbs. And at the end, you're using colored pencils. And you can basically take a very large sentence and break it down into your subject and predicate very easily. And then for our reading comprehension, we'll be doing novel studies, both fiction and nonfiction. And it also is we get that through our core knowledge. And so core knowledge has a group of books that they recommend. And so we will be using that. Then finally, our writing is excellence in writing. And so excellence in writing is a very strategic way of learning how to write, because we find that once we hit about 4th grade is that we need to really up our level of writing. Of course, with easy merit and all other things as they get older, is that they have to know how to write a very solid 5-paragraph essay. And what we find with excellence in writing is it does that through the use of okay, take a sentence. And now that you take a sentence, let's add an adjective. Okay, now that you've added an adjective, can you add an adverb? And it's very strategic on how it does take the writing. And then they do a lot of rewriting, which I know the students don't like, but your strength in writing becomes much better is if you do the writing over and over and over again. And we're not talking a 5-paragraph rewrite, because the kids do get a little daunted by having to rewrite it. But we're talking a paragraph, and how can we add to it, and how can we make it better? The social studies and sciences core knowledge, and it's an approach that puts knowledge at the heart of schooling through specific and sequence excellence and equity and starting early. So the way I look at core knowledge is it's a spiral curriculum. So if you think of a spiral, what it does, it happens, what's taught in kindergarten is retaught again in 3rd grade, is retaught again in 6th grade. So every 3 years, they take the same items and then they add it on based on age appropriate. And so an example is like in kindergarten, they learn about Vikings, and then in 3rd grade, they learn it again, but they add to it, and then they learn it again in 6th grade, and they add to it. That's all done in the afternoon. And the reason is in the afternoon, what we do is we really ask the teachers to do hands-on and engaging, structured play. And I know in 5th grade, when you're like, okay, what can that be? The structured play is very, very important, is that when they go home, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you will not believe what we just did today. This was so fun. But they are spewing out the terminology, and they're spewing out the academics. And as the teacher side of me, I'm like, yes, I've taught them. As the parent side, you're like, yes, it's like they're so loving what they're learning, and it's a win-win situation. And so with the older kids, as they continue to get into the middle school grade, we have to always be thinking about what does play look like for a 5th grader. Very easy to visualize what it looks like in a kindergarten classroom. In a 5th grade classroom, I was like, play can be like, are we bringing in the Chromebooks? Are we putting a Kahoot together? Are we recreating a historical event? And it really is based on the needs, on what interests that classroom. And so it may look different from year to year, but we want to make sure that that at the end of the day, the students are very much engaged with these social studies and science units. And then the final one, I think I talked about it, was core virtues, is where each month teachers highlight a key intellectual, moral, or civic virtue. And we read quality literature, and we provide insightful examples. And so after we do the pledge every month, every day, excuse me, we don't do it every month, we do it every day. Every grade gets a whole week of doing the pledge. And afterwards, we always give a quote based on whatever the core virtue is, and with respect, responsibility. And I've actually just finished up with the second grade classroom, and Ms. Reifenbach is doing the pledge, and she's actually assigned it to the students this week. And the students have had to research themselves, and then they've got to present. And just that presentation skills in and of itself has been they just love it. And it's really, really great skill to learn, I should say. Hands-on activities. So the other classrooms, they've had pictures of what they did this year. I had to be looking for, okay, what are we talking about when it comes to 5th grade? We do a lot of hands-on activities at Kaleidoscope. And so I just had some things that correlate to the curriculum at the 5th grade level. And so I create an animal. Oh, they're in the top right hand over here. This is a board game that they would be putting together. Building a pyramid, dish soap and milk, that's a science experiment. We are really, really big. They tend to correlate with social studies and science, but it doesn't necessarily in regards to our hands-on activities. It's just easiest to do the hands-on activities there, but we're always encouraging the teachers, how can we do hands-on activity? And I will tell you, like, what happened today, the 1st grade came down chanting, no taxation without representation, no taxation. It was just like a mob taking over the school this year. The school today as they came down. And so the whole 1st grade class was down there. I was talking to them, what are you talking about? And so they were articulating for me about the whole colonial taxation problem that was happening. And I was just like, oh, it's like, well, we have some tea. No, and so it's like, they were very, very articulate that they were colonists, and that they didn't want to give their taxes to the British. And so that's a hands-on activity. I think I posted it on Facebook today because I was like, it was really, really loud, but really cool. Our classroom management is Love and Logic. And so Love and Logic is a philosophy of raising and teaching children, which allows adults to be happier, empowered, and more skilled in their interactions with children. The best way I can describe Love and Logic is it's choices, consequences, and empathy. Really is that we really try to teach the children about choices, and so and by 5th grade, 5th graders have a lot more choices out in this world than we do with kindergartners. But the way Love and Logic works is if we are continually allowing them to have choices that do not hurt or harm anyone else, and you are still getting what you want out of it, then what they're doing is they're buying into the whole management of each other, and so examples is like if you're in the classroom and it's like, okay, guys, do you want to write the paper now or do you want to write it after lunch? The paper is going to get written, but perhaps, it's like the class is like, let's write it after lunch. We're not into it right now. That's great. Let's do it. All these little choices add up to the buy-in into the classroom management and the discipline. Consequences, we always talk about that there are anytime there's a cause and effect, anytime you do something, there are consequences. There can be positive and there can be negative. And so we really work with the children on, it's like, looks like you're making some bad choices. Why don't you take a break? When you're ready, you can come back. We really try hard not to work to have children just go sit down for 5 minutes, because some children need 10 minutes, in order to come back and start engaging. Some kids need like 30 seconds. And so we're really working with them on the consequences. And then empathy, always using a strong dose of empathy. That's a bummer that, it's like, I'm sorry, it's like, we can't go out right now. It sounds like, made some bad choices. I'm really sorry. Really putting strong doses of empathy on, making them understand that, it's like, we don't want to do this, but unfortunately, this is just the path that we went down. So we train the teachers on this, but we also offer parenting classes that correlate with the same terminology once a month that are free for parents as well. Field trips and guest speakers did not happen this year. Field trips did not. We do at least 2 field trips per year. As long as the world allows us to do field trips next year, we will be doing field trips. We do one in the fall and one in the spring. They typically are centered around a science unit or a social studies unit. We also, if we're not going out into the community with our field trips, we're asking guest speakers to come in to enhance our curriculum. And so when we're learning about Russia, we could ask a Russian expert to come in. Same with Civil War is being taught in the 5th grade. We would ask an expert from the Civil War. And there was Civil War, when they fight. There was one that happened at Picacho Peak in Arizona. We're not very famous for Civil War things, but there was one, and there are people that you can bring on. There's a big thing on plants in 5th grade, so we can bring a plant expert in to talk about that. So we really work hard to make sure that our units for social studies and science, that we bring these guest speakers in to make sure that they can see that there are opportunities to actually make a profession out of it as well. I give a great example always of volcanoes. And so when you're learning about volcanoes, you can bring a volcanologist in, and there are volcanologists in Phoenix. And the kids just put 2 and 2 together. What, I can make money. I love learning about volcanoes. I can make money learning about delving deep into volcanoes, and you can, and so it's really that correlation once again. Our grading is standards-based grading. So we don't do A, B, C, D, F grading. We do standards-based. The standards-based grading is based on, instead of just, you have a math, and for the first quarter, you get a B-, and that's the whole math. But during those 9 weeks of teaching, we probably have taught between 4 to 10 different standards during that time. And so during those 10 standards that were taught, 8 of them, you could have been, the child could have been acing it, but then there was 2 that maybe they just really struggled with. So when you're going to see a 4 to 5 page document when you get your grades, when you get report cards from the students, and those grades then correlate with 4 being the highest, highly proficient, to 1 being, yeah, we're not quite there yet. You can see in a nutshell, okay, this is where my child is struggling. This is where my child is doing really well. And it's a little bit harder to read, but in the whole scheme of things, it's really a great item because it's like, okay, we can really pinpoint where the child is doing phenomenal in. Our school is really big on school pride and having a lot of fun. And so every Friday we ask the kids to wear their school spirit shirts. And then once a month we do a crazy day. So like we'll do a backwards day, a color day, a sports day, superhero day, crazy hair day. All of those are just fun days for the kids to dress up. And then of course we post it on Facebook, and we just love to see actually the staff does it too. The staff is very good at engaging. We have a lot of fun. And then I was talking about giving back to the community. So we haven't been able to go out to the community, but we've continued to give back to the community, and we will continue. So these were all the charities that we donated to this last year. The administrative team usually gets together and decides this worked or didn't work, or we should change it up. Always adopt a family. We always do a gently used drive. We always do a book drive, and we always do something with animals because we love our animals. So every month we ask, the community has been fantastic at giving back to the local nonprofits. And then the last thing we want to talk about tonight are the parties. We always have four parties a year. This year, the parties have been just inclusive in the classroom with no parents. And I can't tell you how much the parents have missed it and how much the teachers have missed it. Parents are coming back next year. No ifs, ands, or buts about that one. When we have birthdays, you are allowed to bring in store-bought treats. And then well, it says virtual field trips. Well, we aren't doing virtual field trips next year. I guarantee you that. So I apologize if that was written there. So we have 4 parties a year. And typically what we do is we have a homeroom mom, and the homeroom mom or dad will take the lead on the parties, and usually working with the teacher saying, this is what we'd like to do. Sometimes they do it with the whole grade, with all 60 children. And sometimes they do it just inclusive of their own classrooms. And so lots and lots of fun. And then end of the year, we try to do a whole school-wide one where I personally like to bring in water slides and stuff like that. Not going to happen this year. I'm so sorry. So that's basically, oh my goodness, I need it on time. That's the school in a nutshell. We are very much looking forward to having our 5th graders Our fourth graders this year have been phenomenal. They've been the leaders of the school this year. We're looking forward to continuing it, going into fifth grade, and continuing to grow. So I appreciate your time. Stop sharing. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us or reach out to us, but have a good night. Thank you so much. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Heather.